Lawyers of Reddit, what's the worst way you've seen a person screw over someone else in court, whether it be criminal, civil, or divorce proceedings?
Silent scan.
Represented a guy that stole 3 trucks from his work. Only 2 were recovered before trial. He showed up to a motion hearing in the 3rd one. Oops. Not necessarily a bad idea. Hey, I found the 3rd truck parked with the keys in it. Even brought it back with a full tank of gas. Even Stevens?
Silent scan.
I took my ex to court because she had used my social security number to sign up for cable. I found out about it when she stopped paying for the service. She screwed herself over by just being herself. We show up to court. I turn in the contract from the cable company, showing my social security number and her own name signed on the contract. She didn't even try to forge my signature. She signed her own name in and tried to deny that she had any part of it. The judge tore her apart, and it was nice.
Silent scan.
I had a client who was trying to get away from an abusive ex and filed for a restraining order. He shows up to the final hearing and is making a big fuss about a truck that they bought during their marriage. He said it was just his and she had no rights to it because their marriage was void. I asked him on cross-examination what he meant by that, and he said that he had already been married in another state when he married my client. He said that my client had no idea, but that it means their marriage is invalid and the truck was all his. Not only is that legally inaccurate, the transcript of the hearing was promptly turned over to the police, who were actively investigating him for bigamy. Oh, and the judge gave my client the truck along with a 2-year no contact order.
Silent scan.
I'm being sparse on details here due to confidentiality, but I had a client who was accused of a very nasty sexual offense. He had an alibi. He was at work, where he was the boss. He had an employee who could absolutely vouch for his being there. I talked to the employee confirmed this. It gets closer to the trial, and around the time when I need to send in an alibi notice, which is advance notice to the Crown, so that they can investigate the alibi and determine whether or not it's true. But I'm being careful, so I call the employee up again. Turns out my client fired him in the interim, and so the employee quite candidly tells me, oh, yeah, he was definitely at work. But that's not what I'll say in court. Fuck that guy, he is going down. I did not call him as a witness or file the alibi notice. Still won the trial, but if I hadn't thought to call the guy, or if he'd been less candid, my client would have been fucked hard. Sex offender registry, jail time, the works. Completely innocent.
Silent scan.
Here's kind of an anti-story for balance. My marriage with my ex-wife fell apart a while back, and she probably cheated on me, and I probably drank too much to be a good husband and we argued and separated. It could have gotten messy at this point if either of us decided to be vindictive, but at this point we knew it was over, and our main priority was the kids. Custody was never an issue, because the older kids could choose where they wanted to stay at any given time. They chose to stay with me most of the time, and although we arranged a timetable for the younger kids they could come and go as they pleased, if they were staying with friends in the neighborhood etc. Child support was also not an issue as I'm not a dick, and I'm happy to pay my share towards giving them a decent life. I don't count what it costs when they're with me, and I pay half towards school costs, clothes, outings etc. On the morning of the divorce proceedings we met for coffee before going before the judge. The judge proceeded to ask us what contracts we had signed for the mortgage, custody, child support etc. and we just said none. We had it worked out. The judge was incredulous and asked several times, are you sure? This is highly irregular. We still have occasional arguments on the details that we have to work out as adults, but yeah, tomorrow I might get in from work to find one of the younger kids in front of the TV in an unscheduled visit, or I might get a text for half the cost of a school outing next week, and that's all fine by me.
Silent scan.
Not a lawyer, but this happened to my family. My husband's kids asked us to fight for full custody after years of systematic abuse from their mom. My stepdaughter was sexually assaulted, and mom decided to marry a guy who was best friends with the guy who assaulted her. Mom never told us what happened, never got her counseling, never reported it to the police. In mediation she brought up a conversation I had with her which she denied ever happening until then. She started saying lie after lie, and all my husband had to say was, my wife had that conversation with you to explain how uncomfortable my daughter is living with this man because he is connected to her sexual assault. The mediator was not amused. She said, you have someone living in your house who is connected to your daughter's assault. Your relationship with your children is broken. She spent the rest of the session sobbing and signed away custody because this was just the tip of the iceberg that we had on her, and she knew it. Hearing her sobbing made me so happy after all she put these kids through. I had to walk my stepdaughter into the police station to report her sexual assault. I usually don't want people to suffer, but after warning her this guy was coming between her and her kids, and then her lying about the context of that conversation, I'll make an exception. I tried to stop her from the chain of events that lead us to court, and she tried to use it against me.
Silent scan.
Not a lawyer, but my dad is a physician, and is sometimes called as a professional witness in cases of malpractice. In one memorable case, a family was suing a doctor for something fairly frivolous, and my dad was a witness for the defense. The lawyer representing the family was cross-examining my dad, and brought up a chapter in a medical textbook, and asked my dad to read a highlighted paragraph. He does, and the lawyer says something to the effect of, so, what you just read means, blah blah medical thing. My dad confidently replied, no, it does not mean that. Lawyer, no, but if you read this, the author clearly states, blah blah medical thing. Dad, no, really, that's not what the author means. Lawyer, how do you know that's not what the author meant? Dad, well, because I wrote it. Judge basically facepalmed while the lawyer mimicked a goldfish and stared at the author name on the chapter. Basically the best moment of my dad's professional life. Yes, ruling was in the defendant's favor.
Silent scan.
A wife filed for a restraining order because she wanted the house during divorce. Husband has good job, like $200K per year. Employer finds out about restraining order, husband is fired. He was very specialized employee, so only job he can find close to house, ex-wife, and daughter is $50K. House gets foreclosed. Child support at less than $500 per month. Wife has to get job as waitress. 4 cars get repossessed.
Silent scan.
Had a criminal jury trial for misdemeanor criminal mischief over 4 years ago. State filed charges and kept amending the information to the point where they left the actual victim out of the trial and proceeded with the 2 eyewitnesses. Well, one of the witnesses was my client's ex and the other witness was the ex's new GF. They claimed my client vandalized the actual victim's car. Client denied everything. Well, apparently, the state and both witnesses had no idea that the ex had a outstanding warrant for not paying child support to my client, which created a motive for him to lie. Asked him if he was aware that he had a warrant out for his arrest on the stand. He didn't know. The judge excused the jurors. The bailiffs arrested the ex on the stand. State rested. Judge granted our motion for judgment of acquittal because we had good case law for the victim not being there. Client walked away free and the ex went to jail.
Silent scan.
Was involved in a custody case where a wife cheated on her husband and had a child as a result. She let husband believe the child was his until she was about 5 years old and they were divorcing. To stop him from getting custody, she convinced the biological father to try to get custody, thinking that if he won she would wind up with the child. Became a huge 3-way fight, multiple sets of grandparents involved, attorney's fees skyrocketed because the case would have been pretty quick otherwise. She couldn't pay her attorney, tried to get the BO dad to, got even messier, etc. Basically there still isn't an agreement all parties will follow. They are in and out of court every year or so. She screwed herself.
Silent scan.
It's not someone else, but it's timeless, and I bet every criminal lawyer has seen it. We've gotten you an incredible result. Just stand up and apologize and don't say anything else, client. Okay us. No, seriously, we mean it. Don't monologue, just say you're sorry, and would convince the judge to give you lenient sentence, client. Okay judge. Defendant, do you have anything to say, client? Extended monologue about how unfairly he's been treated. Judge. Hammer us. You dumbus.
Silent scan.
Not the worst, but one that sticks out, that they did to themselves. Woman shows up to court in a "it's party time bitches. Drink up" t-shirt. She was there for her first appearance on a third DUI charge. Judge was not in a humorous mood that day.
Silent scan.
Lady brought a frivolous case to get out of a contract she signed. She lost, then sued the attorney and the witnesses for conspiring against her. They got her case dismissed and an award of attorney's fees which she refused to pay. Lawyer recorded it as a lien on her house and scheduled a foreclosure sale, which caused her mortgage lender to declare a default and accelerate entire mortgage balance. Lawyer made a side deal with lender to pay them all proceeds of the sale and then sold her house on courthouse steps to highest bidder and then arranged for sheriff to forcibly eject her onto the street with her shit. She's homeless now. Short story, honor your contracts and don't sue your lawyer when you don't.
Silent scan.
So my father-in-law had arrested someone for breaking and entering. During his arraignment, the judge stopped for a moment and asked the defendant where he got his suit from. It turns out that the defendant was also responsible for a previously unsolved break-in at the judge's home and had shown up wearing one of the judge's stolen suits.
Silent scan.